The fluorescent lights in the hospital conference room cast harsh shadows across my father's face as he delivered what he believed was the final word on Mom's treatment options. We were gathered around a sterile white table, Dad, my older brother Miguel, my sister-in-law Carmen, and me, while Mom rested in her hospital bed 3 floors above us, recovering from the heart attack that had brought us all together in crisis. The triple bypass surgery costs $247,000, Dad announced, consulting the papers spread before him. Plus post-operative care, medications and rehabilitation. We're looking at over $300,000 total. Miguel nodded gravely. That's why Carmen and I have been researching payment plans and medical loans. We can handle this as a family. You can't afford Mom's $200,000 surgery, Dad said, his voice rising as he looked directly at me. We'll handle the real decisions. This isn't about your feelings, Isabella. This is about practical financial planning. I sat quietly in my folding chair, wearing my usual uniform of jeans and a simple sweater. To my family, I looked exactly like what they'd believed for the past 5 years. Their struggling youngest daughter who dropped out of medical school to pursue freelance consulting, whatever that meant. Carmen leaned forward with false sympathy. Bella, we know you want to help, but this requires serious financial resources. Miguel's architectural firm is doing well and we have excellent credit. We can secure the medical loans. The important thing, Dad continued, is that we make decisions based on reality, not emotions. Miguel has established himself professionally. He understands financial responsibility. This was familiar territory. Ever since I'd left medical school 5 years ago to start what my family called playing with computers, every major family decision was made around me, not with me. They assumed I was barely scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck as a freelance consultant, contributing nothing substantial to family emergencies. I just want Mom to get the best possible care, I said quietly. Of course you do, Miguel said in the patronizing tone he'd perfected over the years. But wanting something and being able to provide it are different things. This surgery requires the cardiac team at Presbyterian General, the best in the state. Dr. Harrison's team has a 98% success rate for cases like Mom's. Which is why we're willing to take on the financial burden, Carmen added. Family takes care of family even when it's expensive. Dad shuffled through more papers. I've also been in contact with the Torres Foundation. They sometimes help with medical expenses for families in need. We might qualify for assistance. I almost smiled at that. The Torres Foundation. If only he knew. The application process takes weeks, Dad continued, but Miguel thinks we should apply anyway. Every little bit helps. Absolutely, Miguel agreed. Though honestly, Bella, this is probably beyond what you're used to dealing with. These kinds of major medical decisions require understanding complex financial instruments, insurance negotiations, hospital billing departments. It's not really your area. I nodded quietly. They weren't wrong about my lack of experience with medical billing. I'd never had to navigate insurance claims or payment plans or medical loans. I'd never needed to. My phone buzzed on the table. Dr. Sarah Harrison, the cardiac surgeon herself. I let it ring. See. Carmen pointed at my phone. You can't even afford to keep it on silent mode. This is exactly what we mean about being professional in medical situations. The phone buzzed again. Dr. Harrison again. Bella, Dad said sternly, it's inappropriate to take calls during family medical discussions. You're right, I said, reaching for the phone. I should probably just turn it off. But Dr. Harrison was calling a third time. As the head of cardiac surgery, she wouldn't call repeatedly unless it was urgent. Actually, I said, this might be hospital-related. Let me just check. Miguel rolled his eyes. Of course. Even now, your freelance consulting can't wait. I answered the call and put it on speaker so I could continue looking at the family meeting papers. Hello, Dr. Harrison. Isabella. Finally. The cardiac surgeon's voice filled the conference room with obvious excitement. I've been trying to reach you all afternoon. I have incredible news about your mother's case. My family exchanged confused glances. Why would the head of cardiac surgery be calling me directly? The cardiac wing renovation you funded is complete, Dr. Harrison continued. The new surgical suites, the advanced monitoring systems, the recovery rooms, everything is operational and ready. Your mother will be the first patient to benefit from the new Torres Cardiac Excellence Center, Dad's pen stopped moving across his paperwork. Miguel's mouth fell slightly open. The entire surgical team is honored to perform the procedure in the facility you made possible, Dr. Harrison said. Of course, as discussed, all expenses are covered under the Torres Foundation Medical Initiative. Your mother will receive the absolute best care at no cost to the family. Carmen was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Dr. Harrison, I said calmly, when can we schedule the procedure? Tomorrow morning if you approve. The surgical team, the new equipment, the private recovery suite, everything is ready. This is exactly the kind of case we hoped to handle when you established the cardiac program. The conference room had gone completely silent. Even the background noise from the hospital corridor seemed to have faded. That sounds perfect, I said. Thank you for taking such good care of Mom. Isabella, it's we who should be thanking you. The $50 million Torres Foundation donation has transformed cardiac care at this hospital. Your mother will receive treatment that wouldn't have been possible without your vision for improving heart surgery outcomes. Miguel's architectural plans slipped from his hands onto the floor. I'll meet with the family shortly to discuss preoperative procedures, Dr. Harrison continued. And Isabella, the hospital board wanted me to remind you about the dedication ceremony next month. We're unveiling the Torres Foundation plaque in the main lobby. I'll check my calendar, I said. Wonderful. See you soon. I ended the call and placed my phone back on the table. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Dad found his voice. That was Dr. Harrison, I said simply. Head of cardiac surgery. She said, $50 million? Carmen whispered. I nodded. The Torres Foundation. I established it 3 years ago to improve cardiac care outcomes. Mom's case is exactly why I started the program. Miguel was staring at me like I was a stranger. You donated $50 million to this hospital? The foundation has donated $50 million so far, I corrected. To 3 hospitals in the region. Presbyterian General received the largest grant because they had the most advanced cardiac surgery program to build on. Dad was shuffling through his papers as if they might provide some explanation for what he'd just heard. Isabella, I don't understand. You left medical school. You do freelance consulting. I do technology consulting, I said. Specifically, I develop software systems for healthcare management. Electronic medical records, surgical scheduling platforms, patient outcome tracking. The consulting work grew into a company called MedTech Solutions. Carmen was frantically scrolling through her phone. Oh my God, she whispered. MedTech Solutions. You're the CEO of MedTech Solutions. She held up her phone, showing a Google search result. Forbes article from last year. Isabella Torres, 29, transforms healthcare technology. There's a picture of you in a boardroom. Miguel leaned over to look at the screen. Torres sold her electronic medical records platform to Johnson & Johnson for $340 million, but retained control of MedTech Solutions, which continues to revolutionize hospital management systems nationwide. Dad's hands were shaking as he reached for Carmen's phone. $340 million? That was just one platform, I explained. MedTech Solutions has developed 7 different healthcare software systems. We work with over 800 hospitals across North America. But you live in that small apartment, Dad said weakly. You drive a Honda. You never mentioned any of this. I tried to, I said gently. Remember 2 years ago at Christmas when I tried to explain my healthcare software work? You said, computers can't replace real medicine, and suggested I go back to medical school before it was too late. The memory hit the table like a physical blow. Every time I brought up my company or the foundation work, someone changed the subject back to my lack of direction, or my failure to commit to a real career. Miguel was reading more search results. Isabella, there are dozens of articles about you. Healthcare technology pioneer. Youngest female CEO in medical software. Torres Foundation transforms regional cardiac care. Why didn't you tell us? Dad asked, his voice barely audible. I did tell you. You just couldn't hear it because it didn't match what you expected my life to look like. Carmen was still scrolling. The Torres Foundation website lists donations totaling $127 million over 3 years. Cardiac care, pediatric oncology, medical research grants. But the apartment, Miguel said, still trying to process. The old car. I spend about $40,000 a year on personal expenses, I said. Everything else goes back into the company or the foundation. The goal isn't to look wealthy. The goal is to improve healthcare outcomes. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Harrison. Family meeting in conference room B in 10 minutes to discuss preoperative procedures. They're ready for us upstairs, I said, standing. Dr. Harrison wants to walk through Mom's surgery timeline. As we gathered our things, Dad approached me quietly. Isabella, I owe you an enormous apology. You don't owe me anything, Dad. You love Mom and you wanted to make sure she got the best care possible. That's exactly what's going to happen. But I dismissed you. We all did. We treated you like family who was concerned about me, I finished. I understand why you made the assumptions you made. Miguel was shaking his head slowly. Bella, I feel like an idiot. Here I was talking about taking on medical loans while you've been running a healthcare technology empire. Your architectural work is important too, I said. People need beautiful, functional buildings. I need software systems that help doctors save lives. The world needs both. Walking toward the elevator, Carmen said quietly, Isabella, can I ask why you never corrected us more directly? Why you let us think you were struggling financially? I considered the question as we waited for the elevator. Because I wanted to know that you cared about me regardless of my financial situation. If I'd led with, I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars, would your concern have been about me as a person or about me as a resource? The elevator arrived and we stepped inside. As we rode up to meet with Dr. Harrison, Dad said, for what it's worth, we failed that test. It wasn't a test, I said. It was just complicated family dynamics. But we're here now, Mom is getting the best possible care and that's what matters. Conference room B was larger than the one we'd been in, with windows overlooking the city. Dr. Harrison was waiting with a team of nurses and specialists, all wearing professional smiles that immediately put us at ease. Mr. Torres, Miguel, Carmen, Dr. Harrison said, shaking hands with each family member. I'm so pleased to meet Isabella's family. She's spoken of you often during our foundation planning meetings. Foundation planning meetings? Dad echoed. Oh yes, Dr. Harrison said. Isabella has been instrumental in designing our cardiac care expansion. Her insights into patient outcomes data have shaped our entire approach to heart surgery recovery protocols. Miguel looked at me with something approaching awe. You've been working on cardiac care protocols? Software systems that track patient outcomes, I explained. If we can identify which recovery methods work best for which types of patients, we can improve success rates and reduce complications. Dr. Harrison nodded enthusiastically. The Torres Foundation's data analysis has already improved our patient outcomes by 23%. Your sister is revolutionizing how we approach cardiac care. For the next hour, Dr. Harrison walked us through Mom's surgery plan. The new cardiac wing included surgical suites with the most advanced monitoring equipment available, recovery rooms designed for optimal healing, and staff trained in the latest cardiac care protocols, all funded by the Torres Foundation. Your mother will receive care that represents the absolute cutting edge of cardiac surgery, Dr. Harrison concluded. Thanks to Isabella's vision for improving heart surgery outcomes, we can offer treatment options that didn't exist even 2 years ago. As we prepared to leave the meeting, Dad lingered behind. Dr. Harrison, can I ask you something? Of course. When Isabella first approached you about the foundation, what was your impression of her? Dr. Harrison smiled. Honestly, I was skeptical. A 26-year-old tech entrepreneur wanting to revolutionize cardiac care? It sounded like Silicon Valley arrogance meeting medical complexity. And now I consider her one of the most insightful healthcare innovators I've ever worked with. She understands that technology should serve patients, not replace human care. Her software systems make doctors more effective, not less relevant. Dad nodded slowly. She's always been brilliant. We just didn't see it. Family dynamics can be complicated, Dr. Harrison said kindly. What matters is that you're here now, supporting each other through this. Walking back to Mom's room, Miguel said, Bella, I have to ask, what's it like? Running a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I thought about the question as we navigated the hospital corridors. Mostly it's like solving very complex puzzles. How do you make software that helps doctors save lives? How do you scale that across hundreds of hospitals? How do you measure whether you're actually improving patient outcomes? And the money? The money is a tool for solving bigger puzzles. The Torres Foundation can fund research and equipment that individual hospitals couldn't afford. We can test new approaches to cardiac care across multiple institutions simultaneously. Carmen was quiet for a moment, then said, Isabella, I owe you an apology beyond just tonight. I've been dismissive of you for years. We all have, Miguel added. We assumed that because your path looked different from ours, it was somehow lesser. I stopped walking and looked at both of them. Miguel, you design buildings that will stand for generations. Carmen, you teach high school students who will go on to change the world. Your work matters just as much as mine does. But we didn't see that your work mattered, Dad said quietly. We saw the apartment and the car and the lack of traditional markers of success, and we made assumptions. Success looks different for everyone, I said. I measure mine by whether the software systems I build actually improve patient outcomes. The financial returns just enable me to solve bigger problems. When we reached Mom's room, she was awake and alert, looking much better than she had that morning. How did the family meeting go? She asked as we filed in. Dad sat down beside her bed and took her hand. Maria, our daughter has been taking better care of you than we ever knew. Mom looked confused. What do you mean? The surgery you need? Dad's voice was thick with emotion. Isabella already arranged everything. The best surgeon, the newest equipment, a completely new cardiac wing. All covered. Mom looked at me, then back at Dad. I don't understand. Isabella runs a healthcare technology company, Miguel explained. She's donated millions of dollars to improve cardiac care at this hospital. Mom, she built the cardiac center where you'll have your surgery. Mom was quiet for a long time, studying my face. Finally, she said, You left medical school to become a doctor anyway, didn't you? I felt tears starting in my eyes. Something like that. Just with computers instead of stethoscopes. Computers that help doctors with stethoscopes be more effective, I said. Mom smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her since the heart attack. I'm proud of you, Mija. I always knew you'd find your way to helping people. Even when I dropped out of medical school? Especially then, Mom said. You were brave enough to find your own path to healing people. That evening, as visiting hours ended and we prepared to leave for the night, Dad walked with me to the parking garage. Isabella, he said as we reached my Honda, I need to say something and I need you to really hear me. I waited. I failed you as a father. Not financially, obviously you didn't need financial support. But emotionally. I failed to see what you were building, failed to support your choices, failed to ask the right questions about your work. Dad. Let me finish, he said. You've spent 5 years revolutionizing healthcare while we treated you like a disappointment. You've saved lives, improved patient outcomes, and created technology that helps doctors across the country, while we worried about whether you could afford rent. I leaned against my car. You were worried about me because you love me. We were worried about the wrong things because we weren't paying attention to the right things, he said. Tomorrow our family will benefit from work you've been doing for years to help people like Mom. And we never even knew to say thank you. You don't need to thank me, Dad. This is what family does. No, he said firmly. This is what extraordinary people do. And somehow, despite our failure to recognize it, we raised an extraordinary daughter. The next morning, Mom's surgery took place in the state-of-the-art Torres Cardiac Excellence Center. Dr. Harrison and her team used equipment and protocols that represented the latest advances in cardiac care, all made possible by the foundation I'd established 3 years earlier. The surgery was a complete success. Mom's recovery was faster and smoother than anyone had predicted, thanks in part to the advanced monitoring systems and recovery protocols developed through the Torres Foundation's patient outcome research. 6 weeks later, at the hospital's dedication ceremony for the Torres Foundation plaque, Mom sat in the front row with Dad, Miguel, and Carmen. The plaque read, Torres Foundation Cardiac Excellence Center, established 2021, in gratitude for the vision and generosity of Isabella Torres, whose commitment to improving cardiac care outcomes has transformed lives throughout our region. During the ceremony, Dr. Harrison spoke about the impact of the foundation's work. In just 2 years, the Taurus Foundation's contributions have improved our cardiac surgery success rate by 31% and reduced recovery times by an average of 40%. But more importantly, they've shown us that innovation in healthcare comes from understanding both technology and humanity. After the ceremony, as we walked to the parking garage together, Dad said, "Isabella, I have one more question." "What's that?" "What's next?" "For the Foundation for MedTech Solutions for you." I thought about the pediatric oncology wing we were planning, the medical research grants we were considering, the new software platform that could revolutionize emergency room efficiency. More puzzles to solve, I said. More ways to help doctors save lives. More opportunities to improve patient outcomes. Mom linked her arm through mine. More ways to be a doctor without being a doctor. Exactly. Miguel smiled. And we'll try to do a better job of paying attention to what you're actually building instead of what we think you should be building. That would be nice, I said. But honestly, the most important thing is that we're all here together and Mom is healthy. As we reached our cars, Carmen said, "Isabella, can I ask you one favor?" "Of course. Next time you revolutionize an entire industry, maybe give us a heads up?" I laughed. "I'll try. Though to be fair, I did mention the healthcare software thing at Christmas." "Next time," Dad said, "we'll listen better." "Deal," I said. 6 months later, the Taurus Foundation had expanded to fund pediatric oncology research at 4 hospitals, and MedTech Solutions had developed an emergency room management system that reduced patient wait times by an average of 35%. Mom had made a complete recovery and was volunteering at the hospital's cardiac rehabilitation program. And every Sunday our family had dinner together. Not to discuss my career choices or financial decisions, but to catch up on the work we were all doing to make the world a little bit better in our own ways.
Hi, I'm Anna. You know how they say wedding planning brings out the worst in people? Well, let me tell you about the day I discovered just how far my own mother would go to sabotage my happiness. Not that I was completely shocked. Mom has always had a strange obsession with making my younger sister, Mia, the center of attention. But burning my wedding dress? That was a new low, even for her. Let me back up a bit. I was engaged to the most amazing guy, James, and together we were planning our dream wedding. Everything was falling into place. My best friend Ashley was my rock, total maid of honor material, and James's mom, Diana, was an absolute angel who treated me like her own daughter. My own mother, Helen, on the other hand, well, she had her own priorities, as you're about to see. "Have you seen how your sister's been moping around?" Mom asked, cornering me during a cake tasting. "She just broke up with her boyfriend, and all this wedding stuff is making her feel worse." I sighed. "Mom, I'm sorry Mia's hurting, but this is my wedding." "You've always been so selfish, Anna," she snapped. "Would it kill you to let your sister feel more involved?" More involved? Mia was already a bridesmaid, even though she'd skipped half the fittings and complained about the dress color not suiting her model complexion. Yes, she'd done some catalog work years ago, and no, she never let anyone forget it. Still, I brushed it off as typical mom drama, until Ashley noticed something odd at my final dress fitting. "Hey," she said, lowering her voice. "Why does your mom keep taking pictures of the alteration tags? Isn't that weird?" I shrugged, chalking it up to overthinking. But then Diana pulled me aside at the rehearsal venue. "Helen called the coordinator," she said carefully. "She's trying to move Mia to the head table, in your spot." That should have been my wake-up call. But nothing could have prepared me for what I discovered 3 nights before the wedding. I couldn't sleep, stressed about last-minute details, so I decided to swing by my parents' house to grab my wedding dress. Mom had insisted on storing it there, claiming her climate-controlled closet was better than my apartment. As I pulled into the driveway around midnight, I noticed a flickering light in the backyard. Curious and uneasy, I crept toward the garden gate. That's when I heard her voice. "It's handled, Mia," Mom said. "That dress was all wrong anyway. Too classic, too. Plain. Once it's gone, Anna will have no choice but to wear the one we picked." I peeked through the gate, my heart pounding. There, standing over a metal trash can, was my mother, feeding pieces of delicate white lace into the flames. My wedding dress. The one I'd spent months searching for. The one that brought me to tears of joy when I found it, was now a pile of ashes. "Mama's taking care of everything, sweetheart," she continued laughing. When Anna walks in wearing that boring backup dress and you make your grand entrance in the gown we found, trust me, no one will even remember she's the bride. I froze. My mother was destroying my dress while Mia listened on speakerphone, both of them laughing as they plotted to make my wedding into Mia's show. The photographer's already been paid extra to focus on you, Mom added. And with the seating changes and the toast we wrote, this wedding is going to be your moment to shine, darling. It's what you deserve. In that instant, something inside me snapped. The dutiful daughter who always forgave, always kept the peace. She went up in flames with that dress. If they wanted a show, fine, but it wouldn't be the one they were expecting. I didn't wait for dawn. As soon as I got back to my car, I called Ashley and Diana for an emergency meeting. By 1 a.m., we were huddled in Diana's kitchen, my hands still smelling of smoke and betrayal. I have the whole thing on video. My hands trembled as I hit play on the recording. The sound of my mother's voice plotting over the flames filled Diana's kitchen. I started filming the second I saw the fire, I said, my voice shaking. Diana's expression morphed from shock to fierce determination. That's not just cruel, that's criminal. Property destruction, harassment. Her jaw tightened. Wait until you hear what Emma just sent me. Ashley held up her phone. Your wedding planner's been trying to reach you all day. I leaned closer as Ashley opened a series of screenshots. They read like a horror story. Dozens of unauthorized changes to the wedding plans, every single one traced back to Mom's email and phone number. Your mom tried to switch the venue last week. Emma's voice crackled over the speakerphone. When I refused, she threatened to report me to the Better Business Bureau. Then yesterday, Mia called pretending to be you, trying to change the bridesmaid dress order. Classic Mia, I muttered bitterly. Remember my college graduation? She accidentally spilled red wine on my white dress minutes before the ceremony. Mom made me give Mia my backup dress because, and I quote, at least someone should look nice in the photos. Ashley snorted. Or your first art show? Your mom told everyone Mia was the real artist and you were just helping with her vision. Diana scrolled through her phone, her face darkening. Look at this, she said, turning the screen to show us. Mia had been posting hints on Instagram for weeks. Pictures of her in a stunning white designer gown with captions like, preview of the wedding look that's going to steal the show. That's not even the worst of it, Emma said grimly. They've been calling all your vendors, changing delivery dates and orders. I found an email thread. They're having the flowers and decorations sent to your parents' house instead of the venue. They plan to hold everything hostage unless you agree to their terms. The more we uncovered, the worse it got. Guest list additions we'd never approved, reception music swapped out for Mia's modeling playlist, and seating charts completely rearranged. James's family had been relegated to the back while Mia's friends were given prime spots. Then Ashley pulled up a file she recovered from an old phone Mia and I had shared years ago. Dozens of deleted texts. Look at this, she said. Years of them plotting, undermining, sabotaging, every achievement, every milestone. They were there in the shadows, trying to dim your light. Diana's voice was steel. We're not letting them get away with this. She turned to Emma. How quickly can we set up a new venue? But an idea had already formed in my mind. I looked up, a slow smile spreading across my face. No, I said. We're keeping everything exactly as it is. They want to put on a show. Let's give them an audience they'll never forget. Ashley's eyes lit up. What are you thinking? The rehearsal dinner, I said. Mom and Mia think they've set me up for humiliation. But every change they've made plays right into our hands. The pieces were falling into place. Emma spread the contracts across Diana's dining table. They think they hold all the power because they've hijacked the vendors and arrangements, she said. And that's exactly what we'll use against them, I finished. I held up my phone, showing Mom's latest text. Don't worry, sweetie. I handled everything with the rehearsal dinner. Just show up and trust me. Ashley smirked. Oh, she's handled it all right. Emma nodded. Every unauthorized change, every call, every email, I've documented all of it. The venue's security team is on board, and they'll be monitoring the entrances. The second Mia shows up in that white dress. Speaking of dresses, I said, grinning. Mom thinks she destroyed my only option. She has no idea, Diana, and I picked up my real dress weeks ago. Emma gestured to the seating chart. I kept their version, but with a twist. All the strategic tables are now filled with people who've seen their stunts firsthand, people ready to speak up when things go south. Ashley chimed in, and my assistant's making sure the tables are mic'd up for the rehearsal dinner. Every word will be caught on tape. The videographer's been briefed, Diana added. He'll be capturing everything from multiple angles. This is going to be better than any reality show. Emma leaned forward. What about the backup dress they picked? The one they think you'll have to wear? Oh, that's my favorite part. I pulled up a boutique's website on my phone. See this dress they chose? The plain one they think will make me look basic? It's actually a knockoff. The photos are stolen from a designer's site. The whole store is a scam, and I've got proof. Ashley laughed. So when Mia shows up in her white designer dress, I said, a sly grin forming, she'll be standing right next to proof that Mom bought me a fake. I paused for effect. And the cherry on top. I've invited a reporter from Fashion Expose, the blog Mia's been dying to get featured on. They just ran a huge expose on counterfeit wedding dresses. The room erupted into quiet laughter, Ashley leaning back in her chair with a satisfied smirk. We ran through the plan one final time. Every detail was in place. The fake seating chart that strategically positioned our witnesses, the accidentally unlocked side door we knew Mom would use to sneak in, the backup cameras hidden in flower arrangements, and the piece de resistance, evidence lined up to blow their scheme wide open. Emma held up a hand, her expression serious. Remember, she cautioned, we have to let them think they're in control until the very last moment. I glanced down at the burnt scraps of lace I'd salvaged from Mom's trash can, a pang of emotion washing over me. They destroyed my dream dress, thinking it would break me. Instead, they handed me the perfect way to expose them. They've been rehearsing this performance their whole lives, I said, standing taller. It's time to give them the audience they deserve. The rehearsal dinner was packed. Mom had gone overboard, inviting far more people than we'd planned. Perfect. Every single witness we needed was there, from Dad's business partners to Mia's modeling contacts. Everything's ready, sweetheart. Mom cooed, her smile saccharine as she guided me to a seat tucked away at the back, just as she'd arranged. Right on cue, the lights dimmed. Mom grabbed the microphone, her grin widening. Before we start, my youngest daughter has a special surprise for everyone. That was our signal. The projector flickered to life, but instead of Mia's planned slideshow, security footage filled the screen. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the first clip played. Mom, standing over the trash can, feeding my wedding dress into the flames. The audio was crystal clear. It's handled, Mia. That dress was all wrong anyway. The video transitioned seamlessly to phone recordings of their scheming. Mom threatening vendors, Mia laughing about ruining my wedding, and text messages detailing every manipulation and sabotage attempt. What is this? Mom stammered, her voice cracking as the footage continued to roll. This? I stood up, holding the charred remnants of my dress for everyone to see. This is your production. You wanted to put on a show, remember. Right on schedule, Mia burst into the room in her white designer gown, the picture of confidence, until her eyes locked on the screen. Her face paled as the crowd turned to stare at her. Helen. Dad's voice sliced through the silence, sharp and demanding. Tell me this isn't real. It was chaos. The reporter from Fashion Expose was already furiously scribbling notes, her phone camera discreetly recording everything. Emma stepped forward, laying out the documentation. Every altered contract, every fraudulent email, every dirty trick they pulled. Diana presented her trump card, the proof that the boutique where Mom and Mia had purchased my backup dress was a known scam selling counterfeit gowns. And then James stood, his hand firmly on my shoulder. You've done enough damage, he said, his voice steady and resolute. This is over. In that moment, looking around the room, I realized I had everything I needed. My new family, true friends, and the unwavering love of my fiancé. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about forgiveness. Hi, I'm Jessica. You'd think being the CEO of a successful tech company would make my in-laws proud. Instead, it became their mission to protect their precious son's reputation. Let me tell you how I discovered just how toxic success can be, especially when it threatens fragile egos. And not just any egos, those of your husband's parents. You're working late again. Calvin's voice carried that sharp edge I'd noticed creeping in lately. My husband stood in the doorway of my home office, arms crossed, already dressed for bed. Just wrapping up the quarterly projections. The board meeting's tomorrow. I replied, keeping my focus on the screen. Mom and Dad invited us to dinner this weekend. They're concerned about us. I sighed, already sensing where this was going. Last month's Forbes feature on my company's innovative AI solutions had stirred another wave of their so-called concerns. Tia just sent over the PR strategy for next month's product launch. Want to take a look? I asked, trying to steer the conversation elsewhere. Jessica, it's family. That dinner. I should have known it would mark the beginning of everything unraveling and coming back together in ways I never expected. Your success is admirable, my mother-in-law Margaret said as she delicately sliced her steak. Her tone dripped with the kind of politeness that only served to mask disdain. But surely, now that the company's stable, you might consider a position better suited to. To what, Margaret? She barely concealed her smirk. Family life, dear. Calvin needs a wife, not a business partner. I felt Calvin stiffen beside me, but as always, he said nothing. Standing up to his parents had never been his strength. Thank goodness for Aaron. My best friend since law school had warned me about Margaret's latest moves. Over coffee that morning, she'd said, "They're consulting corporate lawyers, Jessica. They're looking for ways to push you out, something about traditional family values." I brushed it off, naive enough to think Calvin would never allow it. "Are you sure about that?" Aaron had asked, her voice heavy with skepticism. Now, as I sat through dinner, her warning echoed in my mind. My phone buzzed under the table. "Tia, board member chatter. Your in-laws are making moves. Call me ASAP." Margaret's satisfied expression told me she thought she had all the power. Her country club connections and old money influence might make her formidable, but she had no idea who she was up against. "More wine, dear?" Margaret's syrupy voice was laced with venom. "No thanks, I have an early meeting." I stood pushing my chair back with deliberate calm. "Calvin, are you coming?" His hesitation spoke volumes. I didn't wait for an answer. Walking to the car, I texted Aaron. "You were right, time to play hardball." Her reply came instantly, "Already on it. Bring evidence tomorrow." The whispers had started small, concerned glances at charity galas, subtle remarks about work-life balance. But now it was escalating. They're systematically contacting every major stakeholder. Ariel, the only other female board member, explained over lunch. Margaret's hosting private dinners to paint you as a threat to traditional family values. This goes deeper than we thought. Scott, an investigative journalist I'd helped years ago, slid a folder across the table. Your in-laws have ties to 3 board members' wives, all part of the same country club committee. Tia grabbed the folder, her PR instincts kicking in. They're building a narrative. The career-obsessed wife destroying their son's masculinity. Classic manipulation. My phone buzzed again. "Calvin, Mom says you haven't RSVP'd for their anniversary gala." I stared at the screen, rage simmering. "Me? I'm running a company, Calvin. Your mother's party isn't my priority." His reply came swiftly. "This is what they're talking about, Jessica. You never make time for family anymore." Hands trembling, I hung up when had my ambitious, supportive husband turned into his parents' puppet. "They've got their hooks in him," Erin muttered as she reviewed the evidence Scott had gathered. "But they made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" "They put everything in writing. Emails, texts, meeting minutes from their precious country club. They were so confident, they got sloppy." That evening, I found Calvin in his study, looking troubled. "The company's stock dropped 2 points today," he said, his tone uneasy. "Rumors are spreading, and maybe they have a point." I froze. "What does that mean?" "Victoria. Dad says a wife should," he faltered. "Should what?" I snapped. "Know her place?" His silence felt like a slap. "Tell me, Calvin, did you marry me because you wanted a trophy or because you loved who I am?" He didn't answer. My phone lit up with a message from Ariel. "Emergency board meeting called for next week. They're making their move." I forwarded it to Erin, adding, "Time for plan B." Her reply came instantly, "Already in motion. Meet tomorrow at 7. Bringing Scott and the evidence." Later that night, lying awake in bed, I heard Calvin on the phone in the hallway. "Yes, Mother, I understand." "No, she doesn't suspect anything." I shut my eyes, remembering our wedding day and the vows he'd made to stand by me through everything. Now he was standing with them, plotting my downfall. They wanted a war. They'd learned the hard way that taking down a CEO required more than country club gossip and a spineless husband. The next morning, Scott spread a stack of photos across my office table. Every so-called protest outside your office, paid actors, he explained. Here are the invoices. Margaret's assistant accidentally sent them to her personal email instead of her burner account. Tia whistled. Amateur hour. I've got social media evidence too. Every viral post about toxic female CEOs destroying families, all traced back to accounts tied to Margaret's social circle. Erin leaned forward, holding up her tablet. And here's the real smoking gun. Remember the harassment complaint from last month? Margaret wrote it herself. She used her country club friend's daughter's name without permission. The girl's furious and ready to testify. Not only is that unethical, I said, flipping through the documents, it's a major legal liability. It gets better, Scott added, sliding another folder forward. They hired private investigators to follow you. Paid for with your brother-in-law's company credit card. Not very subtle. Before I could respond, the door burst open. Calvin stood there, red-faced. You're investigating my mother? No, I said evenly. I'm investigating the people trying to destroy my company. The fact that your mother's behind it is her choice, not mine. She's just trying to protect our marriage. By committing fraud? By paying protesters? That's not protection. Calvin, that's persecution. Your mother hired people to stalk me. You're twisting everything, he shouted. Mom says. Mom says? I interrupted. When did you stop thinking for yourself, Calvin? When did her opinion become more important than our marriage? The silence between us felt like glass about to shatter. I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice cracking. They're right, this isn't what I signed up for. A wife should support her husband, not overshadow him. I stared at him, my voice calm but steely. If you think my ambition is overshadowing you, Calvin, that's your problem, not mine. Ariel appeared in the doorway. Emergency board meeting's been moved up to tomorrow morning, she announced, and 3 more board members want to meet privately beforehand. Perfect timing, I said, standing. Calvin, since you're so concerned about supporting spouses, you should know your mother's little campaign has an interesting side effect. Turns out, your brother's investment firm is losing major clients. They don't appreciate learning their money manager's family orchestrates smear campaigns. 2 clients have already withdrawn their portfolios. What are you saying? What have you done? He asked, his voice shaking. I didn't do anything. Your parents destroyed their own reputations. Funny how that works. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The next morning, the boardroom was silent as I placed evidence folders in front of each member. Margaret sat at the far end, her usual smug smile cracking under the pressure. My father-in-law gripped his armrest, his knuckles white. Calvin hadn't shown up, likely hiding at his parents' house. Before we discuss my supposed family values problem, I began, let's review some interesting financial transactions. Scott connected his laptop to the projector. Public protests require permits. These didn't have any because they were staged. Here are the invoices, traced directly to accounts managed by Margaret Winchester. Margaret's composure faltered. Those documents are fabricated, she said stiffly. Like that harassment complaint you fabricated? Erin cut in, sliding forward a notarized statement. Miss Sarah Chen would like to know why you used her name without permission. She's particularly interested in pursuing legal action, Ariel said, her voice cutting through the tense silence. Charles shot to his feet, his face flushed. This is absurd. We were protecting our son. By committing fraud? Ariel countered, her tone sharp. And by manipulating stock prices through deliberate disinformation. I imagine the SEC will be very interested in that part. Tia stepped forward, sliding a folder across the table. Here's the data from the social media campaigns. Paid trolls, fake accounts, all traced back to your country club circle. Did you know impersonation for the purpose of market manipulation is a federal crime? You're destroying our family? Margaret shrieked. No, I replied, meeting her glare. You did that when you decided your son's imaginary humiliation was worth sabotaging my career. I leaned forward. Speaking of destruction, how's Thomas's investment firm doing? The mention of their other son's company made both in-laws pale. 3 major clients withdrew their portfolios this morning. I continued, my voice calm but pointed. Apparently they don't trust financial advisors whose families engage in corporate sabotage. Funny how reputation works, isn't it? Charles's voice quivered as he asked, "What do you want?" "Your resignations from all advisory boards," I replied without hesitation, "public apologies, and a notarized agreement to stay out of my business and my marriage. And if we refuse—" Scott leaned back, a sly smile on his face. "Then my expose runs tomorrow. Fraud, market manipulation, harassment, complete with evidence. Your choice." The tension in the room was palpable when the door opened and Calvin walked in, looking exhausted. "It's true," he said quietly, his voice heavy. "All of it. I found Mom's burner phone, saw all the messages." "Calvin, dear," Margaret began, her voice softening. "We did it for you." "No," he snapped, cutting her off. "You did it for your reputation. You've always cared more about appearances than happiness." He turned to me, his eyes filled with regret. "Jessica, I'm sorry. I should have stood up to them years ago." I shook my head, my voice calm but resolute. "A bit late for that." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. "The divorce papers are with my lawyer. Your mother finally got her wish, no daughter-in-law to overshadow her precious son." "Jessica, please." I ignored him and addressed the board. "You have the evidence. I trust you'll make the right decision regarding the Winchesters' involvement with this company." I turned and walked out, my head high, as chaos erupted behind me. My phone buzzed as I exited the building. Messages from my team. Aaron, SEC filing ready. Tia, press release drafted. Scott, board votes unanimous. They're out. Ariel, social response overwhelmingly positive. That night, I sat in my office, gazing out at the city lights. My company was safe. The truth was out. The in-laws' reputation was in tatters. And somewhere across town, Calvin was finally learning that actions have consequences. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's ensuring everyone knows why they failed. A deeper conversation. This story explores a difficult question. In a marriage, where should your primary loyalty lie? With your spouse or your parents? Jessica's situation reveals a harsh reality many face. Choosing between personal success and a marriage strained by toxic in-laws. Was Calvin's betrayal worse because he initially supported Jessica's career, or was his family's manipulation so intense that he deserves some understanding? At what point does family pressure cross the line into emotional abuse? If you discovered your in-laws were actively trying to destroy your career, would you give your spouse time to choose sides, as Jessica did, or is that kind of betrayal an immediate deal-breaker? What's your breaking point? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might help someone facing a similar situation. If you found this story thought-provoking, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations of complex family dynamics. Let's talk about it below, because sometimes the most painful betrayals come from those who promise to stand by us. What would you have done in Jessica's shoes?